Hello and good morning. And today we have another Reckless Ben video, but today is through Legal Mindset. And this is a guy in America who is a lawyer or attorney. He is actually, he knows the law. He's obviously done quite a few bits online where he shows like the legality and a lot of things where people mess up and where people actually stand when it comes to the actual law. So, yeah, as per usual, we're just going to jump right into it and hope you guys enjoy. But yeah, if you could give Legal Mindset a like and sub because he does a lot of good. Hang on, let me just turn this off for you. So you've got Legal Mindset here. So if you go onto his site, he's only got 400,000 subscribers, so he should definitely have a lot more. It's a lot of very interesting watching. So yeah, we'll jump straight into it. Something
Today we're going through new released body cam footage and breaking down all of the lies and misinformation in the bricks and minifigs scandal that is going down. Of course, I'm Andrew Esquire, American attorney, and it's the Legal Mindset. We teach you to be your own judge. So as you guys may have known, this is the ongoing case involving Reckless Ben, bricks and minifigs, and $200,000 worth of Legos that were taken unjustly. So we're going into some new body cam footage that is featuring one character from this, Joseph Johnson, that's related to bricks and minifigs. Now, I'm going to be very fair in my analysis, and everybody out there who's watched my channel for a long time knows that I'm very fair. And there are some things I'm going to bring up where Reckless Ben, well, he was a little bit reckless. But in this case, we're going to see as we watch this footage that the police are absolutely going to bat for bricks and minifigs and on their side here. So of the hour of footage, only about 30 minutes is available because the rest of it was muted. And that's very strategic because it presents only one side of the story. It's only presenting this side of the story that bricks and minifigs wants to get out there. They want the world to hear this. They want people to get this information. And that's why this was put out by police unredacted. So let's get into it right away here.
I'm on a call. She's like, I think they're coming in. All right. What the hell are we going to do? Because he tried coming in the door yesterday.
We'll deal with what we can right here. But again, I'm going to look into those previous cases and I'll be back with you,
okay? Okay, so they're in front of this guy's house here. They're already trying to kind of, you can see they're trying to game plan this, saying, hey, there's probably some statutes that they're breaking. Go look at this. If you look hard enough in any local code, you're going to find something that you're going to be able to press up against somebody. So what he's essentially saying here is, hey, go out and find something this guy has done and push him against it. Now, I'm not saying that Ben hasn't done things that have broken the law. In fact, he did film himself doing some things that clearly do break the law. However, they're trying to search for anything and everything to put everything against Reckless Ben.
They've got
So once again, we have here this crazy story where you've got someone who is associated with bricks and minifigs who is literally playing with the police and trying to get the police to do whatever they can to literally stop him from doing what he's doing.
Case in Provo that they're
which is all about Legos.
They've gone to businesses in Provo, so they're getting them on interruption of commerce. Does that sound like a crime? Because they keep going to that business and harassing employees.
See, isn't it interesting how he asks him, isn't that a crime? Is that a crime? Yeah, is this a crime? Yeah, going to be listing off loads of stuff like we've seen in the other parts of Reckless Ben, where you have the unredacted parts of where they're like, right, you know, we're going to go through every single thing we can to try to get you guys arrested.
Yeah, interfering with the business.
Well, that's what they.
So, of course, there is going to be a certain point at which you do cross a line when you're going to a business repeatedly without a stated illegal purpose. But a lot of the times that they came there, they were under the guise of, hey, we're trying to serve you with process for this lawsuit, etc. Now, there were some times in the videos of Ben, which we watched before, where Ben did indeed and his friends go into those businesses to demand the Legos back after they've been told to leave, after they've been told to not come back. But there you can see from this framing, once again, I'm looking at both sides here. So, yes, did they push the line? Yes, did they trend over the line into harassment? It can very likely be framed that way by the police. However, they did try to deliver them with process for a lawsuit. So this is not completely giving the full side of the story.
Because we closed the store, we put the store out of business, so now he's got no more YouTube content. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so he put the store out of business, which is just hilarious because he lost the lawsuits and he owed $100,000 and he didn't pay. So what did he do? He closed down the store so he didn't have to pay it because the actual, I think the lawsuits were actually against that specific store, and the only way you can get rid of it is by literally closing down the store.
Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm not going to come out and
make a show and
give him what he wants. He just wants YouTube stuff, right?
So on that comment in terms of a strategy there, well, yeah, of course. If someone is coming up and they're going to your house, you have no duty to come to the door and answer them, and you have no duty to do anything. But, if they don't want them to be there, call the cops, get them removed, get them trespassed. I mean, that's perfectly fine. But the other thing is they're trying to serve him with a lawsuit. So at some point, yes, a process server is going to be coming up to give him that information. The problem with Ben is that he was trying to film that essentially happening in real time. He was trying to be there with the process server, film them going in, film they're doing that. And that's the issue that they bumped into here.
So check this out. This is the kind of stuff they're trying to do and do at my house, right?
He's watching it.
So he's clearly watching the video. So at this point, we know he's, checking in the videos. He's seeing what they're doing. And at least he's aware, hey, these guys are going to come up and create YouTube content. But at the same time, there's also this very real, and whether or not he wants to acknowledge them, we'll see, these lawsuits out there, which he did need to answer for.
And where does he live? He lives in California. But this guy in Oregon that thinks that this business stole his Lego hired him to destroy us in the eyes of the public view because they don't have a civil case. They'll lose it. Yeah. I'm not responsible.
Which is funny because if you guys remember, there is actual recording and video evidence of the fact that this guy or one of the other top lads have literally turned around and been like, we'll drag you through the courts and make sure that amount of money that's going to cost you to go through court is going to be worth way more than what your stuff's worth.
For a contract that you signed.
So here's where he's getting in the weeds because he's saying, hey, we're just, the whole point here is to destroy them and to create bad publicity, and they don't want to sue because they'll lose because they have no contract. Well, why wouldn't you fight back with the small claims, with the small claims? Why wouldn't you fight back with that? Why wouldn't you receive the process there, actually go through that and push back if you're just going to lose it, right? So that doesn't fully line up there. And making this argument, he's making these civil law arguments to the police officers. They're not the judge. The police officers are not there to adjudicate civil claims. All they should be doing is facilitating the delivery of the papers of the service of process. Because in both Oregon and in Utah, in this case, we're in Utah, if you're 18 years old and you are not a party or somehow related to the lawsuit, so the defendant, the plaintiff, or their representative, their legal representative, for example, then you're allowed to be a process server. So as long as they're a person that's competent, that 18 years old, they're following the Utah rules of civil procedure, and they're going up and delivering the proper papers to them, that's service of process. And sheriffs commonly do this all across the United States. In fact, that's the primary option for delivering service of process. So the sheriffs here, while they are getting into the law, while they're arguing this civil case, that's really not for them to do. All they do is hand the papers to them and say, hey, here's your lawsuit. If you think it's not valid, you've got to fight that in court.
Which again, if you remember, right at the very beginning, in the first part, you had the police that turned up to the store when Ben was trying to get the Legos back. And the police were like, no, we're not touching this. This is a civil suit. We know it's a civil suit between you guys and the actual business itself. So we're not going to touch it. We're not going to get involved. And the only thing that they wanted to get involved with was the trespass, because the trespass is something that's a criminal offence. If you have been trespassed off a property and then you go back there, you will end up getting arrested. And it's very funny how it all gets flipped like an Uno, the old bloody reverse card, and all of a sudden this guy is pushing a civil matter into a criminal offence, which is just ridiculous.
Simple. And they hung that sign up, but they're just, this is who I'm dealing with. This is who's freaking taking pictures of my house. Would you be comfortable with this guy coming to your house and bugging your wife?
Now, I think this is very, very much framing that is beneficial to Bricks and Minifigs. I think he's trying to paint this picture that, and this is something that comes up all across the internet all the time, of, okay, think of my wife, think of other people, and we're going to get into potential threats. He brings up threats later. And once again, we got to see those. I've got to see that they've actually done those, because making claims that, hey, these people are bugging your wife, well, we haven't seen that footage. And in the world of the internet, where people can say whatever and people can lie and people can just absolutely paint a false picture, which Bricks and Minifigs has done, I'm not going to believe this guy at face value that everything is happening that he says is indeed happening.
Yeah, and again, like, we all have, it's the age of technology. Why doesn't he have any footage of any of this? All he's got is videos that he's saying that they're being harassed, which, to be perfectly honest, when you look at Ben's footage, obviously, I'm presuming that there's a lot more that isn't shown, because they spent months doing this sort of thing. I think at this point they're probably like, I don't know how long they're in there, but this is obviously the new bit of where they won the court cases and stuff, and they're just trying to get their money back, or trying to put them back through the court system so that they can sue them personally to actually get the money back. However, this guy is just speaking and talking and absolute, like, it's all rabble, and there's no proof to it at all. If he was harassing like his wife and stuff, you'd actually have footage of that happening, because she would get her phone out and start recording. He'd get his phone out and record. I wonder if they've got like one of those bloody ring bell doors where it actually takes video footage and you can actually see through a camera, because that's always a bonus. Like, I've seen a lot of police footage where I don't know, take one where a guy was trying to get his car back from his crazy ex, and she was trying to say that he turned up to have sex and all this other stuff, and she was like, no, and then obviously the doorbell footage actually showed him trying to get the keys back and her physically assaulting him. So we're at the age of technology now. You can't just say things. You need actual evidence. Like, the fact that the police have literally taken him on his word is just like one of the biggest no-nos for me.
Would you like that? No, I wouldn't. And I know that's not your jurisdiction, but I'm just giving you an idea of...
And that was in Oregon, then?
Yeah, this is on the 6th.
So he had to drove up then from California.
And this is the whole thing. Why is he showing this cop what happened in Oregon? This is Utah, right? So this whole thing seems to be like a presentation that he's giving for publicity on behalf of Bricks and Minifigs, saying, hey, look, feel so bad for me because all this stuff is happening to me. Well, this is irrelevant. Like, this information, yes, at some point, if there's a case going on in another state, that might be a thing. You can tell the officers to look at it. But him playing footage from him in another state, not 100% relevant to what he's doing now.
Yeah, so he was here on Sunday.
So again, it comes down to the police actually doing their job and investigating. But here's the problem. It's a civil matter.
So he's come to my house Sunday, Monday, now Tuesday. So he keeps sending people to my house, right? I mean, what would you do?
He's trying to serve him papers. Of course he's going to be doing this, mate. Of course you're going to have people that come up to your house that go, excuse me, are you Josh Johnson? Are you the person that have these papers so that you can take them so that I can take you to court because you defaulted and then you refused to pay and what you did is close down a bloody business? Yeah.
I think this is a lot of him trying to garner sympathy here for his position as somebody on the Bricks and Minifigs team.
But he got my sister's address in Pleasant Grove and went and pounded on her door and tried to get YouTube content from her. And she's like, dude, I got nothing for you. You know what I mean? She don't know anything about it.
And once again, this is the whole thing. He's trying to garner sympathy by saying they're going after his family. Now, I don't know whether or not that's true. If that is true, by the way, then yes, Reckless Ben and his team should not do that. They shouldn't be going after people's sisters, mothers, cousins, etc. And also, they're not parties to the lawsuit. The whole point for Ben, if he wants to keep things legitimate and keep things above water and keep things where it doesn't look like harassment, is he's trying to serve them the lawsuit. So you don't want to take actions recklessly that puts you at risk of committing a crime.
He's just trying to
But it does make good YouTube videos.
harass me. I got all of his YouTube content and then harassment.
And that's the framing that Bricks and Minifigs wants. Now, whether or not that's true, we'll leave that up to you guys in the audience to let me know what you think. Is this harassment or is this not harassment? To some degree, I think with the Oregon situation, there were clear instances of trespassing. Yes, sure. That was very well documented. But whether or not it's harassment really depends on what were they trying to do at the moment. If they were trying to just serve that lawsuit, then it's not looking like harassment.
Be careful, I get a jacket.
Oh, yeah.
While he goes in there, let's take a break for an important message from this video's sponsor. And now I'd like to tell you about today's sponsor, FlixFluent. FlixFluent is a new tool that helps you learn languages fast. If you're like me and you like learning new languages through watching content on YouTube and Netflix, this is absolutely perfect because FlixFluent instantly gives you not just the entire context, but breaks down everything that's going in, deconstructing sentences, giving detailed explanations that really help you get a deep, substantive understanding of the language as you're watching something you enjoy. And because you guys are illegal mindset viewers, we are giving 20% off on the first month if you follow the link in the description or the pinned comment. So get FlixFluent and become fluent fast. This has absolutely helped me in transforming my language learning, and I am already becoming much better at the languages I'm studying, like Thai and Korean. Check out that link right now and enjoy FlixFluent.
I'm just gonna see if he wants the girl trespass and then I'm gonna leave.
So this is very interesting. So the girl that they're referencing is the process server. So according to what we know, as far as we know, this girl was a legitimate process server. Once again,
Which, by the way, I'd just like to add that when you actually watch the first two parts up to the point where they're here, she isn't in any of it. So she's definitely someone that you just don't see on camera. She's, you see her after this where she's hanging out with them in the Airbnb, and you can obviously tell that after all this happens, she's like, holy crap, like, this stuff is actually going on. And Ben was probably like, just chill with us for a little bit. We can go through some ideas, and obviously you have the GoFundMe. So they stop doing the legal process and decide to go in a different direction where they're just trying to raise the money for the family.
requirements are not that high. 18 years old, following the Utah rules of civil procedure, and not a party to this case. Now, I don't know whether or not this girl was a friend of Ben's who might have been on one of those small claims lawsuits that would make her ineligible to be a process server, but the requirements are not that high. So it seems that it could be very reasonable that she is a valid process server. So that is something that is very easy for them to look up and to say, hey, well, what is it required here? Not much. Okay, you just want these papers delivered? Well, let's go deliver them, because another job of the sheriffs is supposed to be to deliver that paperwork.
Hold on.
Oh,
All right.
So that's something I didn't know, that the sheriffs can actually deliver the paperwork, which is interesting because when the police actually go over and get the papers and they look at the papers and they bring it to him and they show him, and he's just like, well, these are all fake. They're fake. And it's like, well, you haven't even looked at them. Like, you literally haven't even bothered looking at them. And the fact that you've had 10 different times of where you've had papers served, I think at that point you'd kind of go, okay, I need to start reading stuff. I need to start taking things seriously.
What are you wanting done today? Besides, obviously, talk to...
As much as you humanly possibly can.
Yeah,
want
this is
her
ridiculous.
trespass?
No. I
No.
want it for
Oh,
stalking.
here we go.
Yeah, that's something I can work through.
Well, so you see here, he's making demands of the police, and look, he's in this position where he's trying to say, okay, you guys go out and do this for me. Once again, this is, I think, the bricks and minifigs hubris here is saying we're gonna not just do what is on paper the thing that they can do. Yes, they can be trespassed. Yes, that's very much valid. You can definitely do that. You can definitely trespass people. That's normal. But he's saying you've got to go above and beyond and press them for stalking. Now, I don't know whether or not there's enough evidence and whether or not they actually have enough to put together for stalking. Stalking does require a course of conduct that inflicts reasonable fear in someone or emotional distress. So that is debatable in this case. But he's trying to essentially boss them around. And it looks like, based on what's happened in this case, that the American Forks PD actually went and did his bidding.
But for right,
Which this is where the conspiracy comes in. Which, by the way, I've got a little special thing that I did yesterday. Made myself a little tinfoil hat because you know, took my my boonie, which obviously you can see in there, and made myself a tinfoil hat because of how crazy and conspiring this whole thing is. And I would have it on my head, but it doesn't fit with this headset on.
now, you want her trespassed?
Yes, that's all you can do.
Right now, I can screen charges, but with them saying they're trying to serve papers, kind of puts me in a little bit of a bind. I understand you have a history with.
They're fake.
I understand.
And here's the thing. So he's starting this narrative that the papers are fake. Well, how?
Just a second here. But it doesn't fit, but it fits around my neck. Yeah. Got my conspiracy hat on. Not quite wearing it on my head, but it's definitely my hat.
How do you know that until you receive the lawsuit? So the whole point of service of process is to give you notice of the lawsuit, give you the paperwork, then you can check it. You can go to the court number, you look at the paperwork, you go to the court number, you pull it up. So if it's fake, you get the paperwork, you look at the number, and it's not there. But if it's in the system, if it's actually valid and it's there. So this is complete BS. It completely goes against what service of process is supposed to be. You may not know about a lawsuit before you get that paperwork. That's the whole point. That's why you have to be served in the first place. If you are not served, you are taken to not have knowledge of that. You have no duty to go online and look up your court cases and say, okay, who's suing me right now? And know everybody that could potentially be filing something against you. You have to be served. You have to get that paperwork yourself. So what he is doing here, and the police are enabling here, which is perhaps the most gross misuse of police power, when they should know dang well better, because it's their job to do this, that he needs to be handed that paperwork. And you can see in his hand here, he has the paperwork. And he knows if he hands that paperwork over, that's it. He's on the hook. The lawsuit is going through.
Finally, something that I've been saying, and I think a few others have said this, but this is the main problem. It's the whole point in this bloody tinfoil hat, is the fact that this is a massive conspiracy where you've got someone who is obviously donating a lot of money to the police force. He thinks the police are in his pocket. He is using them personally to get what he wants. And he ended up getting it in the end as well.
So that's why he's trying to hold back to not give him that paperwork.
And you have a history with him. But for right now, again, I'm open to screening charges through our attorney.
That's what Ammon, the CEO of Bricks and Minifigs, said stalking was. So he sent that.
Oh, here we go.
So now they're telling the police to follow what the CEO of Bricks and Minifigs is saying. Essentially, the CEO of Bricks and Minifigs is, telling them how high to jump, and they're doing it. They're going above and beyond. What the heck is going on here? This is ridiculous. And remind you, when they were speaking to Reckless Ben, and oftentimes when they speak to people in general, they should say and do say, hey, civil claims are not our business. We don't need to get involved in small claims court.
Thank you. This is what I said. I don't need to be a fucking lawyer to understand that the police cannot flip-flop from we're not getting involved because it's a civil case to, oh, well, this is a civil case. Oh, but what we'll do is we'll make it criminal.
That's not the job of the police. The police should be out there arresting real criminals, people
Thank you.
actually doing bad things.
My
But
gosh.
now they're going out here and doing the bidding to protect somebody from a civil case. This is wild, and this is a gross misuse of police resources.
Yeah, that's something I'm more than willing to screen.
Yeah,
Okay.
would cause a reasonable person to fear for their safety or suffer significant emotional distress.
The only reason you're fearing and you're only under stress is because you know you're going to lose because you lost before. And because of that, you don't want to go through it. Which, to be honest, you didn't even go through it the first time. You defaulted last time. All you need to do is go through it. Actually go through the legal system. Actually show, okay, well, this is what you're saying. Here's my evidence. This is my side of the story. And here's my evidence to show that actually Reckless Ben, what he's doing is really bad. And like Legal Mindset has already said, Reckless Ben has kind of broken the law a couple of times. Even though he, in his videos, he was like, I need to get them to sue me, which means that he needs to break the law. But again, breaking the law is breaking the law. It's not something that's advisable to anyone.
So for right now, you want her trespassed?
I want them all trespassed, yes.
I'm going to go talk with him, give him his paper back, since you do not want this,
Can I
correct?
just peek at it?
What was that?
Can I peek at it?
If he peeks, and that's the whole thing, if he looks at it, he's been served, and the sheriff knows that because that's the sheriff's job. So if the sheriff hands him that paper, he's been served. So they're protecting him by not doing that. And what does he say here? Look at how these guys are blocking for him.
It kind of puts me in a little bit
All
of
right,
a
never
bind.
mind. It's fake.
Again, like I said in my last one, which obviously brings up the cop that's saying this when this first got unredacted. They are literally protecting him. They are protecting their financial interest, which is not looking good for the police force.
There's no
See, and then he pivots. So he said it puts me in a bind because if I hand it to you, you've been served. So he has to say, oh, it's fake. It's fake. That's not your job to determine whether it's fake, buddy. You haven't even seen it. You can't say whether it's fake or not. You have to actually look at the paperwork. How would you know? If you get that service, you get that complaint, and it meets all the rules of the Utah Rules of Civil Procedure, that is a valid lawsuit. You can't say it's fake. But he can just wave his arms and say, oh, it's all fake, it's all lies, because the cops are blocking for him in this.
So anyway, I'm going to give this back to him and trespass her.
Because here's the thing.
Because technically this isn't refusal. So if he were to refuse it, then I think it's still served. Obviously, the sheriff there would actually have to drop the paper next to him and be like, right, there you go. And he can literally be like, nope, that's fine. I don't want anything to do with this. The refusal of the papers, as long as they're given to him, if I'm correct, obviously I might be wrong with this, but as long as they are delivered to him, they've identified who he is, because I've been through this. Like, I literally read through the internet AI stuff the other day, and as long as they've identified who he is, as long as they've gone, here's the papers, that is done. And it means that the actual court, the lawsuit itself can actually go through the courts and can start the process of everything going. However, the police are literally protecting him. Like Legal Mindset said, it's wild. This is crazy,
About
man.
this logically. Do you think
Oh, God, here we go. You know it's going to be good when he says, think about it logically. Oh, okay, so here, get your BS shovel ready for this one.
process server would show up with a guy that's been harassing a YouTuber to serve papers in Utah?
Again, I don't.
Yes, because YouTubers want to make content. So something that he is right about here is that YouTubers do want to create content, and that's content. So to Ben, he is thinking about this from the frame of a YouTuber, and he's saying, I'm going to record this guy being served, because that's a hell of a gotcha moment when you get him on camera being served and you get that face where they grimace knowing they actually got him in a lawsuit. That is content, right? And of course he wants to make that content. Of course that's what Ben's goal is. Now, it is a little bit of a mistake for Ben because by being there with them, they're more likely to view the process server as somebody who might be harassing or might be also an interested party and therefore not a valid process server, because once again, one of the criteria is that that process server be neutral and not be involved in the actual case itself. So they might say, okay, well, you showing up with them violates or appears to violate. It gives the impression that this person is not neutral, even if they completely are neutral and they actually have no dog in this fight. They're just an actual process server and, they are just doing their job. So in this case, them not wanting to deliver the papers here and the sheriff holding them and wanting to give them back and trespass an actual process server is nuts. It's actually wild.
The whole situation.
Called it.
Think about logic.
Fucking called it.
This guy's
Called
come to
it.
my house 3 days in a row. He's harassing people, and he's just going to be in the same car with a process server. No.
Is he in the car right now?
Why wouldn't he be? I mean, of course, it's content for him. So, why wouldn't he be in the same car not knowing the rules? Because, look, Reckless Ben, let's give it to him. He Googled some stuff, but he doesn't Google everything. He doesn't know all the rules of civil procedure. He doesn't know everything about Utah law, but he doesn't know absolutely everything. So, yeah, he's going to focus on what he is best at, which is creating engaging content. And that's what he's trying to do there. So, yes, that does make sense. You can have a valid process server that's in the same car as a YouTuber. Just because you're a YouTuber doesn't suddenly take away the process server's powers. It's not magical where it depletes their process server energy. That's a ridiculous argument by this guy.
It's just not, that's fake. It is a lie. She's impersonating a process server.
Oh,
That is not a real lawsuit.
false
And
accusations.
that would be absolutely ridiculous. Once again, the threshold is so low. So many people can do it. It's so easy to get that done that would be pretty ridiculous if Ben actually was trying to come up with somebody that was not qualified to be a process server. That would be, I don't believe that. I am on the side of believing that girl was an actual legitimate process server.
If it was, it would go to a law firm, and then the law firm would send out a process server.
Why?
Now, this is where he's thinking traditionally, right? He's thinking, okay, well, if I'm dealing with businesses, because from the big corporate bricks and minifigs world, right? Every other corporation goes against a lawyer, hires somebody, and the lawyer does that work. That is normal, but that doesn't mean that's the only way to do it. A process server doesn't become a process server because a lawyer pays them money. A process server is a process server because they meet the statutory requirements, the requirements in the law. So very, very, very simple.
But for right now, you want her trespass. You don't want him anywhere near the property, and I'll start looking at charges for stalking.
Yes, stalking.
And this all stems from the store in
Oregon. Yeah, I showed him a video. He
You
shows
don't-
up in his underwear and breaks
You
things.
own this store?
Well, here's the thing. Why is this relevant? They're in Utah.
He watched the video. He actually watched the video. Oh my god. He's like, oh crap, well, I've been handed 10 different bloody lawsuits and I got served 10 times and I defaulted 10 times because I thought it was fake. And then, yeah, well, actually, they might have CCTV. However, like, I've got a feeling that guy's definitely seen the videos, because otherwise, why is he there at the beginning of this where he's like, look at this? Look, this is what he's been doing. And it's like, okay, you're watching his videos then. You're obviously watching his videos because he's trying to find anything that he can where Ben slips up, and then he can use that in court against him so that he can get rid of all of this, because this is obviously damaging their reputation. This is, it's damaging his personal reputation as well, like business and personal. I'm wondering whether he's had communications through like the Mormon community that have obviously been like, look, we're having these things circulate around. We need you to be 100% honest with us, like what's going on. And he's probably lied out of his teeth, being like, oh, well, it's all fake. It's all AI. Like people can like make these things with technology. Obviously that's speculation. I'm not saying that he has done any of this, but it would be very interesting to find out.
So we don't want to conflate the issues here, because obviously these are two different states. There's two different sets of laws. And I know it can get confusing, and sometimes things can jump back and forth when we're talking about Oregon and we're talking about Utah, but we're talking about Utah here. So why are you going back and bringing that up when what we're dealing with is just serving you a lawsuit? That does not make sense to me.
So when we first
Give me a sec, I'm going to get some water. It shouldn't be too long. Oh, right, it's behind here. Right next to my bed. Right next to my bed, mate. Yes, mate. That's what it is, mate. Need to get something to whip my whistle. Oh, it's getting warm in here. It's not even a warm day, but that computer, man, it really does. Just boils up some heat.
first took it over, we were just employees. We're there to rescue it. Then, like 4 months into it, we said, sure, we'll sign a franchise agreement. So like April or May, we signed a franchise agreement for it, not knowing how big of a mess this is. And then we operated it until this last month. We
Oh, so this is new.
closed the doors, and it's closed forever.
Okay, so if we remember rightly, the guy that randomly turned up, which isn't this guy, it's the other one. Is it Brandon or something? But the other guy that they took to court as well, he seemed like a very thuggish guy and went in there and was like, right, we're taking everything over, we want you out, and pushed, like literally forced the old owners out so that they could take everything, which is where they then started to they then decided to say that the contracts that they had with them were with the last owners, which is funny. When a business takes over another business, you take on all those contracts too, especially with the business that they're in, where they're selling things on the behalf of someone else. And obviously, this is just, it seems to be quite cut dry. I can't remember what it's called, but it's so clear to understand that what they have done is essentially they've come along, they've noticed that they've got the largest collection of Star Wars Lego, whether they want it personally so that they can push their brand saying we've got the largest collection of Lego of Star Wars, so that people can come into their stores and buy it, or to buy other obviously bits of products that they've got selling, which will probably be associated with that. And yeah, it just seemed pretty cut and dry to me.
Okay, and
Because of them.
How was he associated with the store?
He's not.
And I love how they're trying to blame this on Reckless Ben, which is probably what they're trying to line up for some sort of civil case against him. Because I guarantee you, now that we have Ben's GoFundMe, which is past 200K. It's
Holy crap, look at that. $387,683. Nice, guys. Did really well with that. They've really done it. They've done it.
300K plus range. So they've actually raised a bunch of money on this GoFundMe for the Man Sells, for the Lego project. What may happen here, as we see in many other cases, we actually watched this in the Ethan Klein case with Casey Tron, where essentially after Ethan won, he went in and got those GoFundMe or the legal defense fund dollars. They may try to go after the GoFundMe funds, and they seemed in other videos very interested in that. So what they may be trying to queue up here is to go after them for damages with those statements. This is where people aren't thinking ahead. They're trying to say, okay, we want some of that money now, because now we're going to say you got our store closed and you lost us a bunch of money, when in reality these stores were probably failing anyways. I said this in my previous video, but those Legos, which took over most of the store, were pretty much what was keeping that store going. Without that Star Wars Legos collection, that store was probably going to be defunct and go out of business anyway. So the only thing that got them by was probably liquidating those Legos in an invalid way. So taking those Legos and selling them off without actually paying back what they owe to the Man Sells, that's actually was probably what probably kept them afloat.
He's a YouTuber that this guy hired to harass us because they know they don't have a civil case. So they said, we can't sue you, we will lose. So we're going
That's actually not what they said. What they said was if they sue you, it's going to be expensive. And I do agree that in many cases, civil suits are expensive and are not worth it. However, I think small claims can work. They also could have hired a lawyer on contingency. So that's essentially a percentage of the recovery. So there were options for them. I don't know whether the Mansells knew those were options, or maybe at that stage there wasn't enough publicity to find a lawyer that they wanted, or a really good lawyer. I think at this point, there's a lot of lawyers that'll just hop on this case on
Yeah.
behalf of the Mansells just to get their name out there. That'll be excited to take this case.
High publicity so that, yeah, like you said, you can get their name out there, which I think is absolutely fantastic. And this is where I think Reckless Ben has done an absolutely fantastic job in literally pushing for the publicity of something like this, because one, it's going to help the Brian's family and all of that. Well, obviously, as you can see, it's like $380,000 that they've raised for this entire case. And I think what's happened, because the one of the first times I actually saw it, it was actually at 250,000, and I think that was just to raise the money to give back to the actual family itself. What has actually happened now? I think they might have changed the GoFundMe a little bit so that essentially they can actually work up the money to be able to pay for the court costs that's going to be between Bricks and Minifigs and Reckless Ben, and maybe even possibly the family, just to get the Lego back. Because as you can tell through, if you're actually watching this through other means and you're actually keeping an eye on what's going on with Reckless Ben, you'll actually know that he is dedicated. He wants to get that Lego back, like literally, legit. He just wants to get it all back for them, or the money, which obviously the GoFundMe's got the money for them. But yeah,
For the publicity. But that claim that they're going to lose, that's just without really any merit or substance behind it. Just saying, okay, well, they're going to lose because you guys say they're going to lose. Well, of course you're going to say that. You're Bricks and Minifigs, right? You're not going to want them to win. You're not going to admit that they're going to win on camera in front of everybody, because these guys know they're being recorded. All of these guys know they're being recorded. And that's part of this. This is all a show for the publicity of Bricks and Minifigs.
Take this in the eyes of the public and just defame and make you guys look like jerks in the public's eye.
Okay.
That's their whole thing. He's a YouTuber.
He has nothing.
they're doing that themselves by listening to you wanker. Like, legit. All they need to do is like stop listening to you. They actually need to do their job. They need to investigate things. At the moment, what needs to actually happen is internal investigations to the police that seem to be getting really frustrated with what's going on, and actually work out who is a part of this whole like ring. Conspiracy tinfoil hat.
He's a YouTuber. He lives in California. He has nothing to do with the store. He is
Well, technically, he does, because he bought an interest through individual contracts. He bought an interest in the Lego. So technically, because the Mansells had the ability to assign parts of their inventory and kind of parcel those out, he actually does have an interest here. So Reckless Ben does have something to do. So this is actually dishonest on his part, and a framing that is not true. Because the whole point of the small claims lawsuits is that they do have an interest here and they are relevant.
just exclusively trying to get content.
He's got a video of him vandalized in the store, kind of.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah,
Kind
it's
of.
hanging signs.
But again, it's
Well, there
not,
wasn't really any damage there. I think trying to get them on serious vandalization isn't going to work. Trespassing, maybe. There's some other things that they did that might qualify as disorderly conduct, but they're really not going to get them on vandalism for the sign, for hanging a sign.
also the other problem that they're going to have is, if you remember back in the first one, he had his friends create other companies that end up being like the franchise to the We Steal From Old People. They aren't Ben. They're going to have to take it up with those different people. This isn't Ben. This is the other people. So if this ever does go to court, it's going to be very interesting to see when they bring up that video. That video where they're all wearing those big yellow boxes with the big smiley faces on it and they're running down the road. That one, you can't tell who it is, but obviously I think they'd associate it with his friends, and Ben would have to physically prove that he wasn't a part of that, which I've got a feeling that he's smart enough to understand that he's probably made some video or something that while they were doing that he wasn't actually on the premises himself.
There would be there's no property damage. What it seemed like from anything that was
Yeah, there's
going
no
on
property
there.
damage.
They
didn't
sent
do
the lady
anything.
in, and the lady's like, "Oh,"
They used pumpkins.
to Amanda, the manager.
Okay, this is a big one because anytime anybody comes up with a serious threat there saying they actually threatened somebody, I want to see that on video. I want to know that actually happened. A lot of times on the internet, a lot of places, they will say this to police to get police active and involved and really fired up. They will exaggerate, so they bring up these sort of threats. In the day and age that we're in, I need to see the Carfax on that and see the actual proof that these threats were made, because that's a very serious allegation.
And Amanda is she's a tough lady. And Amanda's like, all right, get to it. And the lady, got scared. Obviously, she didn't kill her, right? They fake signed Amanda's signature, and they said, oh, well, you said you signed this, so you owe us money. Start writing checks, blah, blah, blah.
Ooh,
Well, that was dumb. And that's the part of the reckless Ben contract thing where they tried to make them sign as part of a delivery. That was dumb. That was not enforceable. That's not a legal contract.
I know
that on the part of Ben was indeed dumb.
That was very,
But
very
that doesn't
sketchy.
make Bricks and Minifigs right here, and that doesn't get them off the hook.
No.
Certainly for the lawsuits as well.
That's forgery, vandalism. They helped. This kid went to the park and he set up a little table. He printed a tablecloth that says Bricks and Minifigs, and he had a fake raffle. So people started coming into the store and they're like, I won the raffle at the park.
Oh, come on, talk about this.
Anyway, what
Talk
raffle?
about
I'm
this.
not doing a raffle. Yeah, you had a table set up. He sold shirts out on the corner. He hung signs. He called the store a billion times.
But hang on, this is all in Oregon, right? So at the moment they're in Utah. So they're in a different state, I think. Which, again, he's trying to use other means of like, oh, well, he did this over here. He did that over there. He did this over here. And it wasn't, and it just doesn't actually have any relevance. And again, it's just stupid.
Threatened the employees. Now they're coming to our houses, and they went to corporate headquarters on Monday.
Yeah, because they're trying to serve your papers.
The provost's working.
Now, if they actually did threaten employees and go to individual employees' houses and actually, harass them, that would look bad on Ben's side for Ben's team. So, to the extent that they would have done that. But once again, we need to see proof that a lot of these things actually happen, because at this point, I'm not just believing Bricks and Minifigs that all of these things actually happen, because Bricks and Minifigs has been completely dishonest throughout a lot of this.
On a case too for whatever reason.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, that makes things a little more clear. He has no association.
He's a
with this
YouTuber.
one.
He's just trying to get content.
Okay, I'm gonna go talk to them. I'll be right back.
Yep. Yeah, process server's really gonna ride with the YouTuber. I mean, how stupid does he think I am?
I mean, why not? What's so dumb? It's not a violation of anything to ride with a YouTuber. YouTubers are not criminals here, right? This is not like you're riding with the FBI's most wanted. It's a
Jesus
YouTuber.
Christ.
It's not a crime to be a YouTuber. It's not a crime to create YouTube content. It's not even a crime to want to do something for clicks and engagement. Now, that we can call that out. We do this on that channel, on this channel all the time, calling out content, whether it's legitimate, not legitimate, etc. That's fine, but it doesn't change your ability as a process server just because you sit in a car with a YouTuber.
Like the kid delivered the fake UPS, the fake package to me. I'm looking at him. I'm like, you look like you're 16. I'm like, you work for? You look at his hat, UPS. He's like, yeah. Sign here. What the heck? And I was sitting there just thinking about it. I went to church and came back. I'm like, oh, I bet this is that scammer, So I called the police. I'm like, dude, I want you to come look at this fake package. And then they started, 2 cars pulled up. And then the cop showed up on Sunday. I'm just done. I'm done with it. There's got to be something you can do, right?
That's where screening charges. That immediately gets the attorneys involved.
Well, obviously they could trespass them, so that's something they can definitely do. And to the extent that they've been trespassed and continue to, violate that, I mean, you're looking at potential stalking charges. Yes, if they have been told to leave and they've continued to go and come to the house and harass, etc., that could be a problem. However, if they're sending a neutral process server there, someone just there to serve them with the papers, that's not harassment. That's doing what the court requires. So I'm being very fair here. I'm saying, hey, look, to the extent that they're doing stuff other than serving the lawsuit, yeah, Ben does need to back off. He needs to stop doing that stuff.
Careful, I call Ammon, the CEO.
No, go ahead. You're not in trouble or anything.
This is very suspicious. So I think they knew this body cam footage was going to be released because Ben's team was requesting it. So now they're calling the CEO. So the CEO has his chance to tell his side of the story without Ben or anybody else challenging it. And the police don't have enough information to push back. So they're essentially giving these guys a window to just speak to everybody unfiltered without anybody pushing back, anybody checking on their story. I think that's extraordinarily suspicious.
Right now, we're just kind of working on this.
As much as we humanly
And by the way, what does Bricks and Minifigs have to do with this guy in Utah? The store is in Oregon. So why are they calling the CEO to deal with what's happening at his personal home? This doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up.
possibly can.
And this is where, by the way, the Mormon Mafia stuff comes in, and people saying that their guys are all in on it because they're all members of the LDS church, etc. And I see where these theories come from. Now, I'm not going to say whether or not those theories are valid or not. I think a lot of this is small town. I think a lot of this is corporate corruption. But that said, it doesn't look good for Bricks and Minifigs. It looks like they're trying to push a narrative, and it does look like the police are enabling it.
What I really want is I want them to go to Brandon's house. Hey, what's up, man?
Hey.
Just here with the police again. They have fake service papers. And
How do you know they're fake? You don't know they're fake because you haven't looked at them. You have to actually look at them to determine whether or not they're fake.
the girl is like, she's like, oh no, I got to serve them these papers. Like they printed up the
Then
fake
take
lawsuit,
them.
you know?
Take them,
And
have a
I'm
look
like,
at them.
oh yeah, do you think the
Take 'em to your
process server would
attorney.
really be riding with the YouTube guy to deliver papers to a guy that he's been harassing? The girl came up to the house. And
Content makers.
I was working. I was on call. So Kaylee's like, she's coming back because Ben told her to come back and take pictures inside the windows. So then she's taking pictures in the windows. And yesterday they tried to come in the door. And then Sunday they delivered the fake
Okay.
package. I don't know what to do, man.
So, did you call the police again?
Yeah, they're here. He's standing here. You're on speaker.
Okay.
I just don't know what to do, man. I'm done with these guys.
He's trying to make himself once again out to be a victim here. What they should have done is just given them the money. Was all of this worth even $200K? At the end of the day, this is the stupidest corporate decision ever. Even if the corporate side wasn't 100% responsible, even if the previous franchise owners are the ones that shafted them, at a certain point, just paying out the money or having a settlement, which they are now finally offering to do. After all of this, Bricks and Minifigs has contacted the Mansells or sent out, an olive branch saying we're going to get a professional mediator, we're going to get a professional arbitrator, and we're going to negotiate this. Finally, it took them this long. This is not worth it. At this point, there's been irreparable PR damage done to this company that they're probably not
Yep.
going to come back from.
So,
Big mistakes.
this
Big mistakes.
I'm assuming Josh has kind of explained what's been going on and what's happening. They're using electronic communications to stalk and harass our staff pretty aggressively. Obviously, trying to take pictures inside somebody's home. They tried to come into our office yesterday.
And some of that we have documented, right? And of course, at a certain point, they were trespassed. And after that point, yeah, they shouldn't be coming back. But they are trying to, Bricks and Minifigs is trying to paint themselves as a victim here, no doubt.
We've now had multiple agencies across multiple cities and multiple states dealing with these individuals.
I knew this had to come in handy.
And the Sandy police yesterday were ready
Stopping the
willing
Jewish
to
space
arrest
lasers.
these individuals for Utah statutes for cyberbullying and digital stalking because they're using electronic means for communication and coordinating their stalking.
It's very interesting that they're using the electronic communication, sort of cyberbullying. This isn't exactly what those statutes are kind of on point for. However, there is a certain point that behavior can cross that line. But we're going to need to see the Carfax. What exactly did they send? If what they were sending was just relating to the lawsuits, I don't think that constitutes cyberbullying. And that's where we need to see exactly what was sent here that you're saying was cyberbullying. If they're just asking, okay, well, what's going on on with the lawsuits? When are you going to pay? When are you going to settle this out? And they have an interest in the Legos. Remember, they've actually purchased some of those Legos. So what they're doing is not really bullying. It's trying to get what is, required by what is going to be required by the law, either through the lawsuit or get their interest, get their property interest. So whether or not that falls under bullying or cyber stalking, I think that may be a stretch, but
Yeah.
we'd have to actually see the emails.
The only
So
people that have
digital
been
stalking,
doing any
not
kind of
stalking,
bullying are these
stalking.
guys. 100%.
all
They
the
they,
above.
they,
Oh,
they
okay.
have just been
But
harassing,
because they're continuing to
and they've
use,
threatened
like,
Brian
initial
and his
test kits
family,
things like that,
and
they're
it's just
being
been
sued and whatnot.
ridiculous. And now they're trying to be the victim.
The reality is they are causing financial.
You caused the financial damage.
The harm that they're creating, like going after the individuals, like their families are afraid to leave the house.
Yeah.
Because they're doxing people. They're doing things to try and
Where?
like generate like hate and online like.
And that's not, I will say, I do take a strong stance against doxing, especially doxing families. I think that is categorically wrong, and I
Yeah.
don't think anybody should do
100%.
that. But once again, we need to see, are they actually doing this? Or are they saying they're doing this?
Proof.
Is this something that Reckless Ben is doing, or is this something that people online are doing? Because Reckless Ben did his coverage, but he's not responsible for everything that everybody on the internet does following up with that, right? That's something that you can't hold somebody to. It's just like when you make a YouTube video, right?
I mean, we also need to remember when that random guy who tried to take pot shots at Trump, I think one of the first times, and ended up killing, I think it was about 4 people that were standing in the bench or sitting in the bench behind. And the guy who ended up getting shot and killed was wearing a Demolition Ranch t-shirt, right? Had nothing to do with him, and Demo Ranch actually brought out a video saying that like he had no association, he didn't actually know about him. All he did was buy a T-shirt, and this is kind of the problem here: is the fact that one person can come out and literally turn around to people and say, right, this is a problem, this is what's going on, like the bricks and minifigs thing that is going on at the moment, and say, look, these guys have caused a lot of harm towards Brian's family. They have threatened them to take them to court, or want them to take them to court, so that they can make essentially put them through the process, which is the punishment, take as much money from them in doing the court case, and then in the end probably not winning anyway, and then end up like losing out on everything. And unfortunately, this seems to be the case of this has come out. People are pretty angry. They're not very happy with what's going on, and they're probably doing it off their own accord. You can't control people. At the end of the day, you can't control people. There was a stream where you had the 2 podcast hosts with the CEO, and essentially, how's it going with that? That's it. You had Ben who was streaming with it as well, and Ben was saying, "Do not harass the staff. The staff aren't there. They're not the nasty people. It's corporate. It's these 3 guys that are up at the top that they can physically prove that these guys have been harassing and doing the bad things. Don't harass the normal people that are working day in, day out just to get a wage, because at the end of the day, they're not the ones that are involved in this. And even though they might be being pushed by corporate to do certain things, they're not doing any harm to anyone. They're just trying to look out for themselves, like everyone is. Everyone needs to make a living, and don't like, I would personally say as well, don't harass the staff. Like it's just pointless. You're not going to get anywhere. It's not going to do any good. In fact, it's going to, like Ben said, it's going to do more harm than it is going to be doing good for the actual cause. And remember, people are just normal people. These guys aren't. These guys are horrible. They're lying. They're just trying to get rid of a lawsuit, which personally they could have just paid and got out of the way. But now they've literally damaged their own franchise. They've damaged their own personal reputations, and yeah, they deserve everything that's going to get to them. But obviously, not with the harm. We don't want people going up to like the houses and stuff, and causing physical harms, threats, or like them for them to fear their lives. even though this guy has already threatened to kill someone. But hey,
You can't control what everybody says in the comments, right? You can try to set up filters, you can delete stuff, but that doesn't mean you can put words in other people's mouths or can completely control their actions.
Yeah.
But I think in this case, they probably are exaggerating some of it, even though I have no doubt that they got hate calls. I have no doubt that they got people expressing their negative emotions towards Bricks and Minifigs. I do think they're going to be playing this up because they know this body cam footage is going to go on the internet.
So they're actively spreading falsehoods online. They're doing all sorts of things just to extort money out of us.
And that's the case they want to make. They want to make this into extortion because that would be the most damning, strong case against Ben. They want to say that this was all a big extortion attempt, and that's their framing. That's the angle for Bricks and Minifigs. So the secrets come out here that that's their story. Their story is extortion.
So we've got pending extortion, like a case that the Provo Police Department's working on us with. And there's lots of things, but they're ramping things up and they're continuing to send people, and they just won't leave people alone.
Yeah.
This can't continue. So somebody has to be arrested to show that they can't continue to do this, because it's not just harmless, knocking on someone's door. This is stalking. This is harassment.
Just take the papers.
Just
take the papers.
Aren't trained just to threats of physical violence when it comes to harassment. So there's other forms of harassment that absolutely qualify.
Take the papers.
Take
the loss.
Take action
Take the L.
to stop causing harm to individuals and their families.
Yep. And that's the case officer. Like he was saying, he's going to submit, have it screened for charges with our prosecutors, right, with our city prosecutors. They're going to review everything, and then ultimately arresting someone for an offense. They go to jail, they get booked, they get let out.
Yep.
It's going to go through that whole same process. What's going to happen is if he's got multiple incidents with multiple agencies, it's all going to go through our district court. But then they can kind of combine everything, from what I understand. And,
but also, again, adding to the charges.
And I think this is pushing it here. So saying that they're impersonating an officer of the court, I think that's pressing it. Because once again, the requirements are almost nothing to be a process server in Utah. What are you talking about? This person presumptively is going to be meeting the criteria for a process server. I think that's complete BS. Why would you even lie about that? It's not hard to get a process server. It's not expensive. It doesn't require too much. You can get the sheriffs to do it as well. But clearly, you can't get the sheriffs to do it in American Forks because they're actually going to support this guy. They're going to back this guy up and not serve him the papers, which is ridiculous. That's their duty as officers of the law, to actually go and deliver those court papers, but they don't want to actually do what their real job is. And they cannot rely on this guy's word that it's fake. They have to do their job and give him the papers. That's the ridiculous part here.
Impersonating
Do your
an
fucking
officer
job.
of the court.
Do your job.
That carries.
I'll take your
pretty
job.
Significant,
You can't pretend to be a process
I'm the
server.
sheriff.
So yeah,
Sheriff of conspiracies.
Again, there's additional fraud that they're conducting. I don't know. Obviously, we're working with the police up in Salem, Oregon, but up there, they actually forged somebody's signature on a fake contract just to try and and it's all just for clicks and for views and everything else online. They don't actually care about any of the things that they're going after.
But that's not really relevant to whether or not there's a legal case here. It doesn't matter. And this is something I've brought up, and we can argue this, and I would love to hear what you guys think in the comments. But it doesn't matter if someone is just doing something for clicks. If they actually had a case, you have to respond to that case, right? You can file, and bad people file lawsuits. You still have to answer the lawsuit. And guess what? Bad people win lawsuits sometimes too. You still have to answer it. You still have to take that paperwork. It doesn't worm you out of this. In fact, the more and more you look at this, the more and more it looks that Bricks and Minifigs knows they're on the hook for this. They know they did something wrong, but they're trying to come up with any possible story here to get out of this and look better in the public eye because they know that they're not looking good.
I completely agree.
Just
100% agree.
well, other than also the extortion. So they're continuing to also press this,
Which they
this issue of
go
extortion.
the extortion,
But
obviously.
the party that actually
I think they know that along with the stalking and extortion are obviously their big things, and they are criminal offences, which means that they're going to push this as hard as they can to be like, right, these are the criminal things that these guys are doing. We want you to do something about it. Without the police actually doing their job and investigating what's going on, it doesn't look very good for Ben, because obviously Ben is up against the law. Because I fought the law with the law won, and you can see that he gets arrested multiple
owes
times.
the money, they're in on it with
Oh,
that
times.
person and actively coordinating, trying to shift the blame to our company.
And once again, this is all speculation. That's pure speculation. And if you have a problem with that, once again, this is a thing where Bricks and Minifigs, the franchise owner, they can go and bring those things to court as well. They don't want to sue. And Ben brought up that point, which is very true. Bricks and Minifigs doesn't want to be the Goliath trying to beat down on little David there. They don't want to try to pick on the little guy. They don't want to be perceived that way. So Bricks and Minifigs is trying to now do a jujitsu move in the public eye and become victims themselves, but it's not going to completely work.
And obviously, so like I know that you're not the attorney, you're not the one that's going to be looking at that kind of stuff, but I think it needs to be documented the actions that they are continuing to take.
Yeah, again,
so them.
They know
pretending to
that
be
they're
UPS
on
drivers
camera.
with their
They
signature.
know that this can
And
be
a lot of this
used.
stuff, why are they bringing it up to the Utah police? It's
civil.
happened in another state. It
And it's
blows my
civil.
mind. Although they're claiming, and he claims in this video, that the UPS delivery also happened here, right? So this is something that both happened in Oregon and happened in Utah, the same kind of delivery method. But in this case, these guys aren't really going to be taking action on that.
Is probably going to be used for like more additional fraud.
Yep.
It isn't.
that
I
they're
swear
gonna be
fraud
pushing
is like.
for.
I mean, it can.
And
I
that,
think fraud can be
also
criminal.
is a crime to pretend to be like a delivery driver to obtain signature. Like there's so much that they're doing right now that is like part of a coordinated like just scheme to go after like people's lives.
She's been
All right,
trespassed.
hold on. Officer Sumbot is back.
Okay. She's been trespassed. Talking
Wow.
with him, he's telling me a different story. Again, I don't know all the specifics of your case. He is very adamant that he wants to serve you with papers. Okay.
That's fake. That's illegal. You can't.
And I will say, in terms of the delivery driver, it is true that if you're trying to impersonate someone to commit fraud or obtain something, that could be a crime. So that is not far off. And that was why that was kind of a reckless and stupid idea to go
Yeah.
about that. And that contract would have
believe
been
he did that.
unenforceable anyway.
Yeah,
That was
I know.
a very bad idea to
You-
use the fake delivery driver method. That was not the fake package delivery, for example.
You can't use the law like these guys are trying to do. They're trying to use the law to protect themselves and their reputations and stuff. You can't do the same thing, especially when you're not with like a $400 million company. It's just it really wasn't worth it. I don't get why they pushed that line. They did other things that like they pushed it up to the line. I think that kind of took it over the line. They really shouldn't have done that.
Fake UPS. That's not a good method, and people should not copy that method.
Pretend to be a process server.
However, it wasn't Ben that did it. This is the other thing that people need to remember, is that impersonating someone should go down to the person who was impersonating, because it was them that did it. They didn't have a gun to their head. They were willing to obviously do this. They thought it'd be a funny thing for clicks. Really bad idea. They shouldn't have done it.
So
You can't. It's illegal.
I've explained to him that you don't want to be served papers.
It was definitely funny,
He's
but
got to.
This is ridiculous, people. This is preposterous. You don't get to choose that you don't want to be served papers. You have to receive, if that is your name, that is the person that you are, you're out there, you're on the front porch speaking to cops that have verified it's you. They have to give you what are you doing? What are we even talking about here? This is absolutely ridiculous.
Figure something
This
out.
is.
If it's again, I don't know if there's an actual case right now in Oregon.
It's a Class A misdemeanor.
They could look it up. It would take them 2 seconds to look up the case number and
Which they
pull
end
it
up
up.
doing.
And so this guy's going to try to say, "Oh, it's a Class A misdemeanor for impersonating a process server." Well, just look up the lawsuit. It's a legitimate. Okay, well, it's a legitimate lawsuit. This person meets the criteria. What are we talking about here?
To impersonate a process server in the state of Utah.
So right now,
I want her
Can't make
arrested
this
for
shit up.
impersonating a
Telling
process
you.
server.
so
can't
right
make-
now,
you can't make
I've
this
explained
shit
that
up.
to
It's
them.
great.
And explained
And
it.
the cops probably know that it doesn't take much to be a process server. So this guy trying to put out that they're impersonating a process server, like it's such BS.
He needs to go a whole different route about this and to not come onto your property as well as her.
No. I can't just go and pretend. I can't go print up fake documents and go try to process serve people. That's illegal.
Okay. Have you two been to court before?
No, he can't. No.
Oh, he
he's a
lied.
YouTuber.
What does that?
He lied.
What type of this argument is insane. He is trying to say that YouTubers can't file lawsuits. Are you insane? It happens all the time. YouTubers sue people all the time. It's what I cover on my channel. This channel is pretty much 50%, 75% YouTubers and streamers suing each other and being sued. What are you talking about? Being a YouTuber doesn't make you into a prisoner. It does not make you into a felon where you no longer have the right to sue and you lose your right to sue. What are you talking about,
I'm a
buddy?
criminal
He
'cause
is
I'm doing YouTube.
absolutely delusional here.
Okay, you've never been to court with him.
No.
So these papers that
Which again, by the way, he has. He just didn't turn up. He defaulted. He defaulted on his court cases, and there are 10 of them, and will be receipts of all of that. Is physical damn proof. They also go to their vehicle after this to ask if the case is real, and it is.
you printed.
See, this is where they're not understanding. You don't go to court till after you've been served. What? What sort of world are we in? And the cops know this. I mean, can they be this stupid? This is really stupid.
Fake. Yes, 1 billion, trillion, gazillion percent.
That doesn't even make
Never
sense.
been to court. No.
Once again, court doesn't start till after. Why are we having this conversation?
Also, something I would like to say, obviously, I don't know whether this guy actually knows, they did take them to small claims court. They did end up losing. Josh lost because they had taken $10,000 worth of Lego off of Brian legally with a notary to actually physically take his inventory so that he can go and take him to court, which he did. He defaulted on it. So he has already been to court about this. He already has. Now, I don't know whether this is because they're talking about right now with this new court case and stuff, but at the end of the day, like, he's definitely lying. Like, in my eyes, from my opinion, from where I'm sitting right now, they've already been taken to court and they lost because they had a default judgment.
I think they're having this conversation because they know it's going to get out there and they want to try to present their side of this all being fake, etc. Now, there is a point out there, and some people have made this, that Ben may have sued the wrong people and put the wrong entities on there. That might be a mistake, but that actually doesn't make it a fake lawsuit. It's still a real lawsuit. It just might have the wrong entities. But what commonly happens, and this happens all the time, I've dealt with this in countless cases, where we're dealing with franchises and individuals, they'll just revise that case. You'll just refile that case. Sometimes you'll just file a motion to amend, or sometimes you'll just refile it if it's relatively minor cost. It's not something that makes it fake. It's just a minor error if you might have put the wrong name on a certain party as a certain party.
Nobody's ever been to court. He's a YouTuber.
Okay, what was the reason behind your store closing this month?
His harassment and vandalism.
Shut it down.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Wow, so he's literally straight up lying. Once again, another lie from this absolute twat. And it is unreal. Oh, because we had harassment and vandalism, we had to close the place down. No, he brought up a court claim against you and the business that had stolen these buddy Legos, and you decided that you weren't going to pay, so you closed down that small franchise to save face and to save yourself some fucking money, you disgusting man.
you're on your own accord, you guys.
On my
shut it
own accord, yes.
Okay. I've explained that to him. right now, I'll look into.
Did you take pictures of those things?
Right, yes, I got the case number that he's referring to, and I'll check with the court, see if it's a valid civil case that he's trying to push through, and we'll go about
Oh, look,
it
he's
that
doing
way.
his job.
Again,
Finally,
I don't
doing
know all
his
the
job.
specifics. I don't know why this whole thing has been happening between the two of you. I'm getting two different stories from each one
What
of you.
is he possibly saying?
He's saying that he had $200,000 worth of Star Wars Legos.
He didn't. No, he did not.
Right.
Never had that.
So officer, again, this is Ammon. I'm with the corporate office.
And they're just taking his word for it. They're
Yep.
not pushing back at all. They're not fighting on this. And why are they going into these details? This is not for them to deal with. The cops should just have dealt with this trespass and said, okay, we're going to trespass them. Why are they going through all of this time, spending 30 minutes to give this presentation of their side? I think it's because they knew this was going to get out there, because they mute the next 30 minutes of this body cam footage. We're going to watch a few more minutes till they mute it here, but they mute the rest because they just want to give their side, the bricks and minifig side, and not Ben's side.
The CEO.
Wow.
Oh, hi.
So what's happened is we had a former franchisee that entered into an invalid consignment agreement with a completely separate person.
Okay, so that's hilarious because the actual contract that was signed was actually legal, and they've only just changed the handbook. They've only just changed their policies, and they've changed the policy. Why? So that they can try to get away with this in the future.
That person sold their Lego sets and didn't
But they're
pay
done. I think
the
Bricks and
person that
Minifigs
they
have done.
and
This
has
bad
nothing to do with
publicity is
Mr.
really
Schneider.
not looking good for them.
Mr. Schneider is just a YouTuber that got a hold of the story and then went to this guy and said, hey, if I can harass these guys and if I can do some stuff and get some money out of
Again,
them,
they're
would you pay
pushing
me
their
some of
own
that money?
agenda.
That's speculation, right?
Yep.
That is definite speculation there.
And that's what they're trying to do, is the individual who actually owes the money left the United States. They were one of our franchisees. They were terminated as a franchisee for violating all sorts of rules. They then fled to Europe somewhere.
Now, that's the bigger issue here. The bigger issue to this case, and I brought this up, is the people that probably took most of the money and ran are now somewhere else and they can't be got. And they're the ones that probably did a lot of the misdeeds here as they ran off with the money. A lot of those Legos were probably already sold off and they already took those gains and ran with them or used them for the final month's operational expenses or something. So that's the real problem here, is that they're never going to get the exact Legos back. Hopefully with the GoFundMe, if those funds are not taken by Bricks and Minifigs in some sort of follow-up lawsuit, hopefully the Mansells can be restored here and get some of their money back, or get some of their collection back rather.
And so we've been trying to deal with this situation. We've been trying to help the person up in Oregon, but because we found out later that they've been all working together to try and force some money out of this. So we've had our attorneys working on it. We've been in contact with the Marion County Sheriff's Department, the Marion County District Attorney, the Kaiser, and this is all up in Oregon. And then they started flying down here, coming to our corporate offices, and now they're heading to our staff and other individuals' personal residences to just harass and continue to try and extort money out of them.
Speculation.
That's a bold claim, and if that's not true, that's defamation, because now they've accused them of direct extortion. So there's a lot of potential defamation going both ways, right? Where Bricks and Minifigs is saying things about Ben that could be defamatory, and Ben has made certain statements that are not kind of careful that might be taken as defamatory the other way. But that's a bold statement, and we're going to need to see a lot more proof there, especially, like I said, when they talk about this sob story of, oh, they're harassing the families or they're harassing the other people. We're going to need to see some proof of that actually happened to validate that, because a lot of people nowadays will say that, but that stuff doesn't actually happen.
And so there's already a case in Provo because they've been passing fraudulent documents up in Oregon. They created a fake contract, forged a manager's signature up there.
Now, that fake contract was a bad idea, and even Ben himself said it wasn't legal. So that one is a knock on Ben. But the rest of the stuff right here, talking about, and I'm going to skip this part here because it talks about something bad, but, talking about threats, that's in a legal context, right? Obviously, we're going to need to see proof of the threats.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, if you go to his channel, Reckless Ben, that's what he does. He just goes around and he does stupid things, and he harasses people, and he chops and screws up all this fun.
Not really. From the sounds of things, he like infiltrates cults, and that's what he's been doing for quite a while. And then he ended up going on to this, which has caused so much crap. And it's great because it's loads of publicity for himself, and it's obviously drawn a lot of publicity to the actual case at hand, where you've got Brian and his family that have tried for I think about 2 years to try getting something. Where in the end, when he was talking to his attorney, that he said, right, you've got a certain amount of ways that this is all going to go, and it's all pretty much going to end up the same way. Like, you're not going to end up with much. Like, they're just going to keep rinsing you. They're going to drag out the court cases. Like, you have literal audio of him saying, uh, we are going to drag this out for it to be worth a lot, like that court case to be worth a lot more than your actual stuff, which means that you're always going to be at a loss.
That's news coverage. That's what the mainstream media does. Yes, YouTubers do that too. Everybody does this. You do this in your presentation for marketing and advertising. You take an event and you chop it up and you use the best stuff that looks favorable to you. Everybody does that. That doesn't make you a criminal for chopping up content, right? And doing stuff that's stupid. You find it stupid. Somebody else might find it entertaining. That's none of your business.
I find this very entertaining.
That's all he's trying to do is get footage right now. He's just trying to get more footage to put more videos out there to get more clicks and likes. He has nothing to do with this case other than he just and he was the one who vandalized the store over the weekend.
Again, it's a speculation.
Along with Mr. Mansell, who's the original person consigned to a completely different entity. So they just know that, you know, like.
Now again, he's. Well, I don't think they actually know that that Ben has actually signed a load of contracts with the public notary that shows him actually taking on those Legos, so they are technically his, and they're his and his friends. So
because that other person, that other party,
they don't know, man.
Bankrupt,
they just don't know.
And don't have any money. They're just going after somebody else that they think they can just
extortion again.
Gotcha. Okay.
They're extorting us. They're also being told to say extortion so they can get.
I guess
criminal
the store
case.
had any sort of lawsuit filed against them by this Ben Schneider or the Mansell.
No. So again, going on the fraud that Marion County District Attorney's office is looking into, they filed multiple small claims court claims against a completely separate entity, and they used fictitious names to do so. All of the cases were then dropped.
Well, and this is a thing. Obviously, if they screwed up names and they had to refile it, that's one thing, but that doesn't make it a fake case. It just means they maybe got some details wrong, right? So they are allowed also to use, let's say they came up with their own LLCs, they could use their LLC name. So you don't have to use your personal name. So I don't know whether he's framing that accurately. It sounds like I don't trust the Bricks and Minifigs people. So I don't think he's necessarily framing this accurately. But the thing is, they did refile, right, these small claims, these several small claims cases, and it does appear that some of them can be made valid, right? If all you have to do is change a name or change a party, that's not a big deal. It's still a valid small claims case. Suing for part of that property, right, individually in small claims court is valid. Breaking it up, itemizing it, that was actually smart on Ben's part, and that is a valid tactic.
Because of it. And like, but none of them were filed against the actual individuals. They weren't filed against Josh or his entity.
And this is something they can correct. So they're saying, oh, they weren't filed against Josh or his entity. Well, they can correct that. They can change the parties, right? Now you're just arguing details. Now and this is the other thing too, you're kind of admitting that you would be on the line if all the ducks were in a row and everything was properly addressed. This is where, to me, why did you not pay them out? Why were you fighting them for this long?
Also, it kind of makes a lot more sense to why they are like, we want the trespass off my property. I don't want anything to do with this law like this actual lawsuit, because right now they have just dotted the I's and they've crossed their T's. They've got the right people's name on it now. They're going to personally try to take them out, like not take them out, but take them down with the law system. They've obviously worked out that, oh crap, they know who we are now. They know where to direct all of this towards, and they're in trouble. They're in trouble, and they're panicking because they're getting these cops on their side. But again, I don't understand why this civil lawsuit is being dragged out into criminal. Now, I understand they've said a lot of things about like extortion and threats against like employees and stuff, but at the end of the day, the bloody police force, they need to do their job. They need to see both sides. They can't just literally turn around and go, oh, well, because you're saying this, that this must be true. And, you know, we're going to take your side over their side because you're paying us loads of money and we know you personally. So we're actually going to take your side more than anything.
Against us
Crazy.
They were filed against completely either fictitious entities or otherwise. But they're fraudulently filing these with the state in order to make it look legitimate when he puts his videos out online. And he's done this at least, I think, in 2 other instances with individuals who ended up, like filing lawsuits against him.
Okay.
So that's what we're working on right now with our own attorneys is going after him and his stuff. But no lawsuits have been filed against us, against Josh and his entity, or against any of the parties that he's claiming. But we're working on our lawsuit to file against him and all individuals that.
So what? Look at the PD. They're just taking their word for it, saying okay, and not serving them the papers that he literally had in his hand. They had it in his hand. Would take a quick call. All you got to do is look down and say, hey, here's the information. Look up the case number. It's real quick to do. Say, okay, this is a legitimate lawsuit. Here's your lawsuit. You've been served, right? They refuse to do their job. But yet they're listening to this whole pitch, this whole sob story from Bricks and Minifigs.
Associated with him, including the former franchisees and Mr. Mansell, who are all colluding together to try and extort money out of us.
Oh, bloody hell.
Okay. Let me make phone calls.
They've literally said all they want is the Legos.
I'm going to stop that there. From this, it cuts out. But what we can see here is that Bricks and Minifigs especially tried to give their side of the story in this and tried to give their pitch, and that the PD, the America Forks PD in Utah, absolutely is in their pocket, taking their side, not doing their job. This is a gross misuse of police resources and a lack of basic training, fairness, not showing bias.
I don't think it's basic training. I think it's more about being in their pocket, which I think is disgusting. Like, I know that they're trying to make the police seem, kind of a bit incompetent, and maybe they're failing in certain ways, but really at the end of the day, they should be doing their job. They should be investigating both sides. If there is so much stuff that they are talking about where it's extortion, threats, and all this other stuff, why don't they just take Ben in? Why don't they just go, right, you have an opportunity now to actually show us, any communications that you've had between them? Because Ben has been very open with it.
So many problems with this, not to mention the fact that they deactivate the body cam audio for no reason
bad
after this cuts out. So after this guy gives his speech, after they give the CEO a platform to speak to millions of people, they go and cut the audio. Yeah, I'm not believing that. But I want to know what you guys think in the comments below, and we will continue to be reviewing this case. Catch you later.
So, wow. Obviously, now we've actually got someone who's had a look at it properly. He obviously said that there are a couple of issues that Ben has had. I mean, like the fraudulent thing with the whole, when it actually comes to that stupid bloody contract, that might sink them a little bit. But at the end of the day, that's only one thing. And this whole thing is just absolute madness. It really is. I don't understand why they just didn't pay what they needed to pay. Get it over and done with, because now that franchise has been damaged. The reputation is damaged. And it doesn't matter how hard they try to dig themselves out of it, all they're doing is digging themselves down deeper. From the sounds of things, now we've got a bit more of information on how things have gone down. It kind of seems like they finally sorted out the legal side. Well, Ben Ben's side has finally sorted out, right, we need to sue these people. Josh and his entities and the CEO of Bricks and Minifigs. He's obviously gone down the right channels. He's obviously worked out the right thing to do. They are now scared because they're going to have like a lawsuit come up, and it's not going to look good for them. And the more that this goes on, this is just looking worse and worse for both Bricks Minifigs, Josh, and anyone else who's associated with them. You have the poor Mormon community that has kind of been dragged into this as well, because at one point when they talked to that one Mormon to try to talk to Josh to actually see what's going on with all the audio and stuff, he gets the police called on him, and it really doesn't look very good. And yeah, there's just what's going on here is just absolutely nuts, and I can't wait for more stuff to come out. We're almost at like an hour and a half right now, so I'll pretty much leave it here. But yeah, if you want to see more stuff, like, subscribe, and leave a comment if you like. And yeah, hope you like my foil hat. This is a massive conspiracy. It's a conspiracy. But yeah, if you guys like what I'm doing, please like, subscribe. Please keep watching my stuff. And I hope to catch you in the next one. Goodbye.